All right. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful Monday morning. We are here for the 5th in a series of 6 webinars put on in partnership between the SBA South Florida District and SCORE Southwest Florida District. The series is titled Close, Survive, or Thrive, the Small Business Challenge Today. And today's webinar is titled The In Business Guide to Tough Times, Marketing on a Dime. And I would like to introduce you to Lonnie Koyama, the lead outreach and marketing specialist for the U.S. Small Business Administration here in Southwest Florida. Lonnie has been with the SBA for 11 years. His duties involve fostering economic development with business organizations. In addition, Lonnie counsels businesses and connects them to resources that will help them start and grow. Prior to his work with the federal government, Lonnie had a long private sector career that includes extensive management and supervisory experience with several national retailers over an area encompassing several Western states. He also served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, where he was honorably discharged. Lonnie, please take it away.
Thank you, Corinne. The SBA is happy to co-sponsor and promote this SCORE webinar series. We've had over 1,100 small business owners register for this series. This is far and away the most registrants we have ever had for an online event. This class today is on marketing. Back when I was running businesses, I always made a point to use 5 to 7% of my budget for marketing. Our primary source of marketing and promotion at that time was the Yellow Pages and newspaper print ads. I have a question for you. Who has the Yellow Pages book in your home? Who does not know what I'm talking about? We live in a new time where marketing is dynamic and always changing. Because of the internet and smartphones, we need to be savvy about the tools that are out there and yet still be budget wise. This class today will give you some valuable knowledge about marketing in 2020 and hopefully help you stand out among your competition. Back to you, Corinne.
Thank you, Lonnie. So as I mentioned, this is one in the series of 6. It's actually the 5th webinar. Please type all of your questions in the Q&A feature below. The Q&A feature below, it's important that I repeat that, as we will answer as many questions as possible at the end of this webinar. Additionally, you will be sent an email tomorrow or the next day with a link to the webinar and anything else that's important as it relates to the webinar. In the event that you have any problems with your audio, you may dial the number here below, the 929 number, and you will also find that number posted in the chat section of this webinar. Please remember, questions should go into the Q&A. And with that, I'd like to introduce Sharon Schulman, who recently retired as a special advisor to the president of William J. Hughes Center for Public Policy at Stockton University in New Jersey. During her tenure, Sharon held positions of Chief University Relations and Marketing Officer, Chief Executive Officer for External Affairs and Institutional Research, Interim Chief Development Officer, and Executive Director of the Stockton Foundation. Sharon's portfolio includes marketing, public relations, and publications, web and social media, communications, and government relations. Sharon, thank you for being here today for this webinar presentation.
Thank you. With all those different titles and all those different things, my children used to tell me that, Mom, do you have a problem holding a job? So I did have a little problem, I guess, holding a job. They used to give me more than I knew what to do with. Let's talk about what we're going to do today and what this webinar is designed to respond to a pandemic-whipped business world where marketing and operating dollars are at a premium. Customers are not found in the traditional means of customers walking into your establishment, and the competition online now is huge, and where many are looking for ways to get themselves known for little or no money. But let me be very, very clear that philosophically, every business, new or old, should put marketing dollars into their budget. But I understand that what we're going through right now today, this is harder to make happen. We'll take a small amount of time and define the different types of media and categories and the pros and the cons. But I want to take another minute, if I can, and tell you about if you had a real budget, and if this were not this pandemic era when everything is happening, what kind of money you should be budgeting for marketing, whether you're a for-profit or a not-for-profit business. So the SBA recommends 7 to 8% of your gross revenue on marketing if you are doing less than $5 million a year and your net profit is 10 to 12%. I understand that's the ideal. Keep in mind, a new business may need 12 to 20% and an established one may need 6 to 12%. Some of the marketing basics that you'll have to include in here, and these need to be refreshed periodically, things do get stale. You have to, the basic is, first of all, the brand. And the brand, very simply, I can give you a whole bunch of textbook definitions for what a brand is, but in practicality, the brand is what people say about you and think about you. Think about a few brands that you might have known over the years. For instance, go back to 1973. There was something called the Duracell Bunny. You might remember that. But you might get it a little bit mixed up because in 1988, the Energizer Bunny took over, and that bunny still sticks around all the time, and we all know it when we see it. Think about Coke, Coca-Cola. You know, by their color, by their type style, and by their commercials when a Coca-Cola, the polar bear, when the Coca-Cola commercials come on. Or think about Budweiser with the Anheuser-Busch horses that come on. Those are brands. It's what people think of when they think about you. Another thing you'll have to be working on, the marketing basics, are marketing strategy and development, website design and development, and so on. And some of these are things that you're going to have to spend some money on, even if you don't have any budget, unless you're really, really talented at doing these things yourself. So in this economy, sometimes that can't happen, and 5% seems more doable as a budget. So if we could, let's move on now, thank you, to the owned media. Owned media is a media activity that is generated by your business and or your brand. It channels for seeing this media are owned or controlled by the business completely. There are a lot of pros to that. One of the pros is you have complete control of what this is. It costs less and it's published directly on your site, whether it's a website, Facebook site, whatever it might be. The con, it's got a limited audience and it needs internal maintenance. So think about this right now. If you have a website or a Facebook site that you have people coming to, generally they're only people that know about you that are coming there. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to get these people to get more to you, and you want to get into a conversation with them. Most importantly, this kind of media, owned media, can trigger word of mouth and a dialogue with your target audiences. You have them, and once they give remarks, you can talk back to them. It's the first place that you can both hear what customers want and think, and also respond to them. It's the obvious, you have to drive customers and potential customers to your own media, and so everything that you're doing is to drive those people to your own media, and the sales come off of that. And you must, wherever you can, if you've come to your place, respond to them in one way or another. Can we go over to paid media, please? Thank you. So paid media is media activity that essentially is generated and paid for by the business. It's got a pro to it. It's instant results and easy to track when you do these kinds of things. When you buy advertising, it's pretty easy to track in almost any kind of medium. You have complete control over the message and copy, and it's easy to target your intentional customers. You know where to advertise. The con is it's initially expensive and can increase with competition. It's easy to fall into a trap of not re-examining your channels and not diversifying your advertising in response to what the customer wants and what your competition is doing. Some of the costs that go with this, and some of the cons that are included: content design, production, script writing, website configuration, graphics, email template design, etc. Those are some things that are costly and can take some time. Another is, because of all these things, it can have a very lengthy upfront time to get ready. Social media ads can be the least costly, yet still well targeted. A lot of people like to use Facebook ads for this. Facebook is a good one for allowing you to target by area, by all kinds of different ways, all different kinds of groups. And again, this kind of advertising, paid media, can also generate that coveted word of mouth kind of advertising. So let's look at earned media for a moment if we can. Actually, we're going to take a couple moments on this one. This is where, in this day and age, in this process right now, when you don't have a lot of money, this is where you want to try and put some extra time and effort into this. This is media activity that's related to your business or your brand that you did not pay directly for or you did not create by the company. It's always generated by outside media and customers. There are ways to position for these opportunities. In years back, we used to call this publicity or free media. Today, it gets more that it's earned media. The attention is earned because the business didn't pay for it. Now, that's a proverbial two-edged sword. When it's positive, it's got great opportunity to maximize the relationship with current and future customers. And when it's negative, the damage can be significant. So this is where a significant amount of your time will be spent managing your brand's reputation across many varied channels. Remember when magazines and TV and newspapers were where you wanted to be talked about or written up? Many a digital PR person will ignore these in favor of the digital. Sometimes there are good reasons to do that, depending on what it is you're selling. However, they still exist and they still give you an added dimension of opportunity when dollars are tight. Don't ignore them. They still have audiences, and you can take what was written or produced and use it in your own media. You can now move it over and add things to it. You can take those videos, you can take those newspaper articles, magazine articles, and you put them into your various media. But here's where it starts to change. Now add in the customer tweets, likes, retweets, or add in the negative customer Yelp review, or the blogger or print medium that writes an article on the top 10 anything, and you made the list, or the alternative, you didn't make the list. Now that's where it becomes much more problematic. Final differentiation. So you decide where and how to spend your dollars and your time. When you pay someone to write a favorable article about you for online or print, that's paid media. When you write your own blog post about your latest product or service and release, that's owned media because you own the blog. And why do you care? Because consumers today are influenced heavily by family and friends online. It's not just the stories told at the water cooler anymore. Today, people share both the good and the bad with their online connections, and it can domino. It can domino into, depending on what it is, into the hundreds, the thousands, and occasionally into the millions. So there's a couple of facts that make this so important. This one is from SEMrush. 72% of customers today turn to Google to find out info on products and problems and solutions. It's the first place people turn. Another fact, and this is from HubSpot research, 50% of US consumers trust what they hear from family and friends the most. So you can see why you need to create these opportunities to talk to one another and talk to your customers. Let me give you some examples of earned media and some of the things you ought to know. First of all, it has a much higher return on investment than paid in owned media because you haven't put a lot of dollars out. It is hard to calculate because of the amount of time invested up front in designing and creating content, working with print and online journalists, trade publications, bloggers, etc. But both the brand and the consumer's bond increase in trust. You've invested in building a relationship with the customers when you can show this earned media. And if you look at the examples that I've listed on here, notice that there's a lot of overlap between what they are. Sure, there's print, radio, and TV and news coverage, but then there's online versions of that same print and TV. The newspapers, the magazines, the TV stations all have all these different kinds of things. Media mentions in publicity in professional media, such as professional associations, but you can also get yourself into professional blogs. So as you can see, and each time, both ways, consumer to consumer word of mouth and product demonstrations, and online word of mouth referrals such as joining a website. So posts in online communities and social networks, they're so important. When I talked about the risks before, look at the online ratings and reviews such as Yelp and Google and Amazon. They're wonderful. And you can talk to your people and talk to the people who do that. You can also get those same local freebie newspapers and other kinds of traditional media that write about different things, but it takes the time to work with those professionals when it's offline and get those things to happen. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Corinne, can we get there? Or it's not showing at my end.
I think you're frozen. Do you want me to take over for right now?
There we go. Thank you. If you'd like to go in, go ahead.
Oh, all right. So what processes and channels and info do I need to have? While this isn't as easy as it looks, it is time consuming and only better done by digital PR specialists, but you certainly can wade through all of this if you want to. Typically, the way it goes is you take a look at your competition. Most of us know who our competition is, and by collecting their coverage from an advertising perspective and a public relations perspective, you can do sort of a reverse engineer and understand what their strategies might be, and that's because you've gotten their various media sources. You can identify their most valuable campaign idea or strategy, and then you use that to complement what you know about your clients and your target audiences to identify what your strategy is. Oh, I think you might be back, Sharon, so I'm going to turn it back over to you. Oh, let's see. Can I hear you?
We're back.
There you
Great, thank you. Thank you for jumping in. And if we have more computer problems, Corinne will keep on jumping in. Can you hear me now? Are you okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. This isn't, you can. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the very first two bullets here, the analyze your competition and analyze competitor strategies.
Sharon, you're frozen again. So.
Okay.
Oh, no, you're back, sort of. Let's try it. No, you're frozen. So without knowing how Sharon was going to talk a little bit more about analyze the competition and the competitor strategy, I'm going to just sort of skim through these at a high level. Again, once you have a greater understanding of who your target audience is and potential targets, you'll develop your campaign ideas and strategy, clearly staying within your budget. Knowing that these either differentiate you from your competition or align you with your competition because they probably have similar target messages, but clearly delineate what your value proposition is. Develop your content, focus on your search engine optimization, and then design and implement your social media marketing. Stay involved with online media and your customer relations. You really want to build a multi-channel marketing plan. So how do you earn this type of media? You want to really begin with, again, an understanding of your customer, know what is relevant and what will resonate with them, and develop the content that they will want to share. Remember what Sharon said a few slides ago about how 57% of people really go to their family and their friends for recommendations. Part of that is because so many people are on the internet today, looking at information and relying on people who give those ratings about good products. So you want to think in terms of useful and user-friendly or even humor. Think of yourself. What do you want to read and what type of tone resonates to you, keeping within the brand framework, of course. Keep it simple, such as an infographic or a video. Video definitely pulls greater than just straight copy, and so does an infographic. Short work lists work great. So anything that is like an FYI in a list format, but again, highlighting the differentiation of your product or service from your competitors. And then use hyperlinks or share buttons very liberally, but also very appropriately. People want to share your content. People want to look like they're in the know and that they have the latest information so that they can be helpful to their friends and family. So if you can help put your targeted audience or targeted customer in that seat of being knowledgeable, that's going to go far. But again, remember, be authentic and true to your brand. You want to get this content, you want to drive people back to your website. It can be driven through blogs that you host. It can be driven through any sort of social media, having people go from there back to your website. So well-placed hyperlinks, well-placed social share buttons, and then offer up this content that you've created to either small publications, trade organizations, or service organizations so that you get their value recommendation as well. So continuing the theme of how do you earn this type of media? Social media to interact with potential and target customers along the same lines that we've just been discussing. Talk with your potential customers and the groups that influence them. Chambers of commerce are very valuable. Social media groups that affect them. Participate. Sharon had an example here of the Viking Cruises social media sites, so that even though in devastating times for the cruise lines, its customers and potential customers did almost all of the talking. Viking only comes on to make special announcements as a result of the pandemic or some other extraordinary happening. No ads, yet almost every page you'll see is an enticing photo of their ships, activities, and ports. So they want you to stay top of mind of what they do, so that even though we're not necessarily having a wonderful time right now during the pandemic, they're bringing some sort of visual relief while they're allowing themselves to sit in that part of your brain that is sort of your bucket list or your wish list. Many will do this from your company site directly, so take the time to answer them. They'll come in, they'll ask you a question, they'll want some information. Remember, every time you touch a customer, that's a brand touch point. So everything that we do that's customer-centric needs to reflect who our brand is, how we are, with our customers at the center of it all. Put yourself in the position where customers see and hear you. You really want them to know about your expertise, your service, your product. Anytime you have the opportunity to speak in front of a group of professionals, any influencer of your client or prospect client, please get yourself out there. It's going to help you and help your clients. Do some blogging and continue to post to your social media sites. Once you determine sort of the cadence that your audience and target audience wants to hear from you, stick to that. Consistency is so important. It's not only consistency in what you say, but how frequently you say it. And last but not least, delight your customers. Exceed expectations where you can, and they will love your company, your brand, your service. And that will also increase the word of mouth, which is so huge these days. Encourage your customers to give you testimonials and ratings online. Sentiments on products or services can spread like wildfire. That's so important to make those sentiments abound with delight. Once again, encourage the sharing of these customers. And I suggest that you, again, think of yourself. What has happened to you that has made you feel joyous about a brand or a product? When did somebody go out of their way to bring delight to you? All right, Sharon, should we do a test and see how you're doing? All right.
Can you hear me at all?
Yes, perfect. Why don't you take it from here?
You can? And then I'm going to ask you, if you would, if you go back to the slide called what processes, channels, and info do I need? Because I'd like to spend a little more time with that one, and thank you for all your help. Is that back? Because it's not showing on mine.
Yes, it's back.
So let me talk about I'm not sure what everybody is saying.
We're on the what process.
Okay. So I want to talk about analyzing the competition. Yep. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about analyzing the competition and analyzing competitor strategies. This isn't as easy as it looks, and it's very time consuming, and this is an area that is worth being considered getting done by a digital PR specialist, but you can certainly wade into this yourself. In case we get cut off, let me just make a comment. There is a search engine optimization SEO starter guide that Google puts out, and it's at support.google.com that is very, very worthwhile taking a look at. So as with these first two bullets, the obvious one is who are your competitors and what products and services do they offer?
Sharon, we can't hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, Corinne.
No, we cannot hear you, Sharon.
Okay, then guess we're frozen again.
All right, everyone, we apologize for this technical difficulty. Okay, inexpensive hybrids. Again, we are looking to see how we can maximize the most for you at this time. So sending out press releases, again, making sure that they are newsworthy. You need to think about, again, your audience. What is going to be of value to them? You want them to be newsworthy for a couple of reasons. You don't want the outlets to get tired of receiving information from you. So they also need to position the outlets as from a position of knowledge, and they need to be knowledgeable to the recipients. Sponsoring an event. Demonstrating when and where appropriate, tables at exhibitions and any other type of public venue. And then sometimes getting, sometimes you pay for reviews, which is not a bad thing, but it's oftentimes known that you're paying for that review, but you're still getting the information out there. And then taking advantage of sites such as Nextdoor and other target area specifics. Why is this important? Because you are getting word of mouth out there. People often value the written document over the advertising. They don't always assume that it's paid for, and so they assume that it's actually not paid for content. It's earned content in that sense, and that has a higher value to the customer than anyone else. So is digital PR owned, paid, or earned? It depends on the content and who posts it. Businesses sponsor a post about a new product, that's paid. Customers post on this product on their own accounts, that's earned. Trade pubs post on the product, that's earned. Business then reposts on their own account, that's owned. Even though the initial content was earned, they're now posting on their own site, therefore it's considered owned. Organic traffic and search engine optimization, that's when it gets intertwined and can get very complicated. Create your own content and earn traffic because you ranked high on search engines, well, that may be earned. If you write a blog post, which is owned media, and then you conduct keyword search on this post, it optimizes it for the Google search, you are blue linked results on Google's research engine because it has a higher earned ranking. So the traffic you get from those that click on the result become earned media. So it's all a little confusing, but it certainly can be sorted out. And I think that the SEO document that Sharon suggested people get from the Google support.google.com is very, very helpful. Again, our apologies with this technical difficulty. We will see what we can do about that going forward. But SCORE has a number of resources that may be valuable to you in this time of uncertainty due to the COVID environment. We have our own Recovery Small Business Resilience Resource Portal. The SBA has government funding programs and loans due to coronavirus, and the CDC has some health resources. And if you live in Lee County, please check out Lee County or LeeFloridaCares.com. And there's other counties that have similar support and sources for help. And then Lonnie has some resources for you as well. Lonnie, please take it away.
Okay. Is my audio okay?
Your audio is great.
All right. So let me tell you about some of the SBA resources that are available for you. On the top of the screen, it's a place to find local assistance from the SBA and our resource partners. So the SBA partners with great resources like SCORE, and there's also small business development centers, women business centers, and a Veterans Business Outreach Center, also some chambers. But if you go to that top link, it will ask you for your zip code. And when you plug in your zip code, it'll tell you who is in your geographical area. These days, since we're doing so many things via the internet and virtually and via telephone, it doesn't matter as much. You could connect it to someone just about anywhere. For example, this SCORE presentation is coming out of Southwest Florida. We thank them so much for producing this. They did an excellent job. But it's being broadcast to the entire state of Florida. So that's just an example of how someone in a distant place can connect to someone in another part of Florida. The next link there is for SBA resources. So it's a place to find out. If you go to that link, sba.gov/updates, if you go there, it will ask you for your email address. And it's a way to get plugged in for SBA activities taking place. There are a lot of things taking place every day, webinars, for example, or there's different news, some of it related to COVID-19, some of it related to the Paycheck Protection Program, of which I don't know that we've heard the end of that one just yet, because the Congress is, some parts of Congress are still working on that. So we'll see if there are more updates to that. The next link is sba.gov/disaster. And so there are still economic injury disaster loans out there. And so that link will take you to that application. Next, you could follow us on Twitter if you're a Twitter user. And then the last link is for YouTube. So we just started uploading some different things to YouTube, such as success stories and different programs. In the future, we're going to have something like this. I'm not sure which version will be on YouTube. And it's going to be translated in Spanish too. So I don't know if that will end up either on SCORE's website or on the SBA's website. Next link. Okay, so this was a 6-part series. Close, Survive, or Thrive. And the last in the series, the last session in the series is next week, next Monday at noon. Make sure you're here for that. This will have to do with legal challenges that are facing you at this particular time. So we have an honest to goodness real attorney teaching the class, and so I encourage you to be on that. The SBA is starting a series of classes too, and they're going to be held at this same time, Mondays at noon. And so originally we had planned to start on October 5th, but now it looks like they're going to start on October 19th. October 12th is a national holiday, so we didn't want to interrupt the session. So we're going to start on October 19th at noon. And if you go to that, I just mentioned on the prior page, the sba.gov/updates. If you sign up there, you'll find out how to sign on to all these future classes from the SBA. Back to you, Corinne.
Thank you, Ronnie. So now we will answer questions that you all have submitted in the Q&A for us. The first question here is, what are the differences of creating a marketing plan for a service-based business as opposed to a product-based business? And let me see if Sharon is able to answer that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. So
I have a commercial, don't I? And I apologize to everybody. I can't even imagine what happened with the internet. So the difference is only in the way you measure your marketing plan. When you set your goals and your measurables, if you're talking about something that is service-based, it's a different kind of measurement than, say, a business where you're looking at the product that you're selling, and there are pieces to measure. Any way you look at it on some of this, your first measurement is going to be on how many hits to your website or Facebook sites. So that way you know what kind of both ways. You're showing how much activity you're generating. Then you move into sales and services as they go along.
They want to know if there are templates available for service-only companies or service-based companies.
I'm sure there are. In fact, I know there are. You can buy them, but I can't give you the names of them. If you literally Google what you're looking for, you can actually buy them and buy their services. I don't know that you can actually go through it and buy just the template.
Okay, so Sharon, since you are sounding so wonderful right now, should we try to go back to that slide where you wanted to talk about competitive analysis? And
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's see if we can do that.
The competitive analysis, while she's getting, there it is. The competitive analysis is an integral part of what you're going to do. And it's much more than just who your competitors are and what products and services they offer. So it does get a bit harder. You have to research sales tactics and their results. For example, what's the process and what are the channels? Are they single or multiple locations, or are they online only? Is the business who's your competition expanding, or is it scaling down? Are they using resellers? Are they regularly discounting? And you need to be able to cope with that. Why, and this is an important question, why would customers leave them or not buy from them and move to you? And of course, you need to research total revenues and sales volumes. Now, a lot of this is easy, or much easier, if you're dealing with publicly traded companies. It's a lot harder for the privately owned companies. And you have to do some of that through some research, through their websites, through web kinds of things, and numbers that you're looking at, and other forms of associations. They may have some of the numbers, and magazines and periodicals on that. It's important to look at how they market. For example, do they use blogs? Do they have videos on YouTube and other sites? Are they doing a lot of things with sponsorships? Are they a low-cost provider, or are they a high-cost provider? Because you may have a niche coming in a different direction. Do they work on volume, or are they a single sales type of a thing? What are their pricing strategies? And how do they differentiate themselves from others, including you? Because when you analyze that and their online content, including their tone and readability and facts, etc., you're going to see what the ability is to go back in and create your own opportunity. So now you've looked at these things, you're going to take a look at the comments, the numbers of them, whether they're plus or minus, are they negative or not. They're topics that are talked about or tweeted or shared on Facebook and so on. You want to see what kind of social media they use, excuse me, and note responses and their sharing and the links. Note the keywords that they use, because those may be keywords that you want to tap into. Note their posting frequency and content shares or retweets. And when you have all this, and you've got this ton of information, it's what you do with it. And now you're going to go back to a different section. You're going to go back to perform a SWOT analysis. And most of you know what that is, but just in case, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on them. And then you're going to do one on you. Because once you do that, you're going to understand your own website and social media and with a SWOT. And now there's an incredible amount of data, and you can now look into that and see what are my opportunities, because I can either go head to head with them, or I can find some niche kinds of places to get to. That was the piece I wanted to get to. I'm so glad we had time to do it.
Awesome. And we have time still. We don't really have any other questions as of this moment, but we have time for you to go through the rest of the slides if you want and augment what
like my concern is I couldn't hear in there what you were doing, but if you want to keep going, I'll keep going with it.
Okay.
So when you earn this type of media, and I have this in red because it's important to note that if you want people to want to share your content, remember, we were talking about this mouth-to-mouth kind of conversation that people will have. There is a science to this, and by the way, professionals understand the science on some of this quite a bit better. You want to share your content, and by making it awesome. Get this content onto your website, blogs, and social media pages with well-placed hyperlinks and social share buttons. Now, what happens is sometimes people will put in too many links and social share buttons and hyperlinks. Make sure the ones that you put in are the ones that you want and you want people to use so that they can focus on them. Offer up this info that you're putting together to smaller publications and to trade and service organizations. If I were working today, and if I were still doing consulting work, one of the best things I would do is I would do webinars like this. I would go speak at a Chamber of Commerce. I would table some of the things at different kinds of trade shows, and I would get people to be talking about me and giving it away. Would you go to the next slide for me, please? So if you use social media to interact, you're talking with potential consumers and groups that influence them. I had a client at one point who was very frustrated because she had a balloon business, of all things. Now, it cost her time to create all these balloon centerpieces and big kinds of things, but if she created a centerpiece for someplace, it cost her $3. So it took her time in hard costs. And so if you can then volunteer to say, hey, I'll provide the centerpieces for your kind of activity that's going on, suddenly people know who you are, you do it for free, but you put your own information out there and you now lead people back to your place as an opportunity to buy. That works for the balloon lady, and it also works for more sophisticated kinds of things. I think I heard you talk about Viking cruises already. And so I think we're in the put yourself into positions where people can talk and delight your customers and that kind of a thing. I spent a lot of time talking at associations. I will tell you that my whole career, and it got to be all kinds of things, started at the Chamber of Commerce. I just volunteered, and I'd suggest that to people. Get in there and show what you know and what product or service you're offering. You can do this at community organizations. You can do this at all kinds of things, and take the time to do some blogging and post to social media sites. If you are going to write for these blogs, take the time to have someone proof, to make sure you don't have errors in there, grammatical errors. It's really important to project the best way that you can possibly do this. And I think, Corinne, you may have covered just about anything else that I did, based on what I could hear.
All right. So unless there are any more questions, I think we can call it a wrap. Any more questions, anyone? If so, please feel free to write them in the Q&A.
Corinne, this is Lonnie.
Hi, Lonnie.
Hi, there were a couple of questions that I attempted to answer that we should probably get Sharon's view on. They're they're under the answered Q&A, one from Thomas and one from Nia.
Right. Nia had asked the one about the service, so that one was already answered. And then Thomas had asked, and I thought you answered it great, but I'll let Sharon answer it. So Sharon, Thomas had asked, you stated multiple times that people rely heavily on friends and families for recommendations. How much weight do people place on stranger recommendations, such as Yelp, Google, etc.?
Actually, they put a lot of weight on that. People, I think earlier I said about 72% of people look at Google. They look at Yelp when they're looking to buy different things or go different places. Yes, they trust their family and friends, but they also look before they buy to see how many people do this, so that when you get that, when you get that kind of a recommendation, and when you make sure that you respond to people and thank them for doing it, it's a heavy thing that people in today's world are using to evaluate what they're doing.
Yes. Okay. And then two people asked again about either the percentage of revenue or the percentages that should be dedicated to marketing, either as a percentage of revenue or whatever the percentage in general should be.
Okay, I'll go over that part with you quickly again. The SBA on their website recommends 7 to 8% of your gross revenue on marketing, all things being equal, if this is good. If you're doing less than $5 million a year and your net profit is 10 to 12%. That's the ideal. Businesses may need more depending on whether they're startup and they've got to do more advertising and what their competition is. And it can range any place from 6 to 20% depending on the circumstance. But But in this time, I'm still saying you probably need to spend 3 to 5% of your monies right now just to get yourself set up and get that word out there that you can't do all by itself.
All right, great. All right, that looks like that is it. Right. We got to thank you. So let's see. Oh, one more here. Hang on. Oh, Q&A. Thank you. People are saying excellent information. Thank you for sharing. So you're getting great reviews, Sharon. Great reviews. We're not off yet. Not yet. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much for sticking through our technical glitch. Thank you so much for showing up for our 5th out of 6. And we look forward to seeing you next Monday at 12 o'clock for our last presentation. And everybody who asked, yes, you will get a copy. You'll get a link to the slides when we send out our email either later today or tomorrow.